China is no longer a developing nation. That's what the former U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson's message for the Chinese and American political and business leaders said. An established economy, he said both countries should operate under a new economic framework. I asked Henry Paulson to explain the critical points both nations needed to build stronger economic ties.
I gave big emphasis to welcoming Chinese investment to the United States because I believe that will create jobs here. It will be good for the U.S. and the U.S. economy, and it'll be good for China. There's already a lot of U.S. investment in China, but there's obviously room for more and for opening up the Chinese market more for U.S. investors, but there's a lot we can do here in the U.S. And I made a big emphasis on that because there have been a number of successful Chinese investments so far this year in the United States.
Certainly investment from China to the United States is a very big deal.
Right.
What type of response have you received from the Obama administration on your plan?
Well, I haven't talked specifically with the Obama administration about it. I think during a campaign, in a political campaign, this is not something that is going to be generally welcomed by either candidate. But when you get down to the grassroots level, where you start talking to mayors and governors, there's a lot of enthusiasm for investment that's going to create jobs.
The traditional relationship between the United States and China has been one of the United States buying a large quantity of goods that China exports to the rest of the world, including the United States. But many economists have been saying that the Chinese need to rejigger that economy and focus much more on the domestic consumption side of it, very much. Did you get a chance to discuss that aspect of the economy with the Chinese?
Yes, very much so. And there's no doubt that I think one of the big objectives that the Chinese have is meeting the demand for, a more growth across the entire economy, the entire geography, and shifting the focus away from exports more toward domestic consumption. And I think that will be a big benefit to China.
And as you look at this new framework, what was the response, I guess, from the Chinese counterparties to your new idea of this new framework?
Well, I wasn't talking as much to the Chinese counterparties about that. I've been talking regularly about some of these ideas, but I think there was a good response yesterday in the U.S. because we talked about a number of things, increasing investment being one, freeing up bilateral trade. I think it makes sense for us to move forward there and to have bilateral trade negotiations between the U.S. and China, because there's a lot more we could be doing with regard to trade. China is our fastest growing export market. I talked a lot about freeing up the flow of technology. We can do things to reform. We have a badly outdated export control set of procedures, and we can still protect our national security and increase exports to China and do so in a way which is very much in our national interest, and it leads to more jobs here. And I talked a bit about the clean technology area, because what I've called for is a pilot program between our two countries where we use scientific evidence and we use that to do everything we can to increase clean technology usage in both of our countries, because it just doesn't make any sense to have the two biggest exporters of oil, emitters of carbon, the two largest economies, not using the cleanest technologies that are available.
In the past year or two, the relationship between the United States and China has been an interesting one, to say the least. There's been a number of cases regarding free trade. There's been a number of cases regarding intellectual property rights as well, and the rhetoric seems to be continuing to heat up. And I know it's an election year, but do these challenges concern you?
Not really. we have a strong economic relationship. Whenever you have an economic relationship, there's going to be tension. It just goes with an economic relationship. 40 years ago, we didn't have one. We didn't have tension. So the good news is we've got one today. And both presidential candidates, what they've called for is adherence to the global trading rules, and they want to do that. They don't want a trade war, and we have dispute resolution vehicles with the WTO. So sure, I would prefer not to have that kind of rhetoric, but I think the U.S.-China relationship is a strong one.
Tomorrow we'll have part 2 of my exclusive interview with the Secretary Paulson, and we'll get his views on what he thinks about the U.S. economy and what really worries him.